The great Academy of Zyril Prime stood tall above the clouds, its crystal towers glowing in the light of two suns. Students from every corner of the galaxy came here. They were heirs of powerful species, each carrying ancient bloodlines and strange abilities. In the middle of this proud place sat one student who did not belong. Her name was Aria, and she was human. She was the only one. Every day, when she entered the lecture hall, eyes followed her. Some curious, some cold, most mocking. Humans had no glowing eyes, no wings, no scales, no telepathic gifts. They were seen as a fragile, backward species barely crawling out of their own small planet. The aliens laughed whenever she answered questions. "Your species still burns wood for energy," one sneered. "Your bodies break so easily," another whispered. "She will never survive the trials," a third laughed. Aria kept her head down. She told herself not to care. But each word sank into her like a blade. The Galactic Class was not only about knowledge. Every student carried a mark, a symbol etched into their skin at birth. These marks glowed with power, representing the strength of their kind. Some could bend gravity. Others could summon storms. Every alien here had one. Everyone except Aria. Her hands were bare. The others mocked her for it most of all. To them, she was powerless, unworthy of sitting in the same room. That day, the lesson was about defense tactics. The instructor, a tall being with silver horns, spoke in a voice that echoed through the hall. "Power is not given for show," he said. "It is tested in crisis." Aria felt the words cut deeper than he meant. Crisis. She lived crisis every single day. She fought just to stay in her seat, just to be tolerated, just to endure. The alien beside her, a scaled youth from Drakkar, leaned close. "What will you do when the trials come, human?" "Cry." His friends laughed. Aria's chest tightened. She wanted to speak back, but silence was safer. Her father had told her before she left Earth, "Be patient. Learn. Prove yourself when the time comes." She repeated those words in her mind. But still, her hands shook under the desk. Suddenly, the academy alarms blared. The crystal walls flashed red. The ground trembled. Sirens wailed in every direction. "Emergency! All students remain in place," the instructor shouted. His horns glowed as he activated a shield over the class. The laughter stopped. Fear replaced it. Aria's eyes widened. Through the tall glass windows, she saw dark shapes falling from the sky. Ships. Warships. Their weapons blazed as they struck the city below. The academy shook again. Dust rained from the ceiling. "They are inside the defense grid," someone cried. "They cannot be," another began, but his voice cracked with panic. The shield trembled under the impact of a blast. Cracks spread across its glowing surface. Students screamed. The proud heirs of the galaxy, each with their glowing mark, shrank back in fear. Aria stood frozen. Her heart hammered in her chest. She had dreamed of proving herself one day, but not like this. Not against death falling from the sky. The instructor raised his hands, but even his strength was not enough. The shield shattered. Energy exploded in sparks across the hall. The enemy had breached the academy. For a moment, there was silence. Smoke drifted in. The alien students huddled together, their eyes wide. Then someone whispered, "We are going to die." Aria looked at them. For the first time, she saw something different in their eyes, not pride, not cruelty, but fear. Her own fear shifted. Beneath it, something else stirred. A fire. She clenched her hand. And then it happened. Her skin began to glow. A mark faint, then brighter spread across the back of her hand. Not carved by birth, not inherited from ancient blood. Something alive. Something chosen. The other students gasped. The human, she has a mark. The light pulsed stronger, syncing with her heartbeat. She raised her hand, and the air hummed with strange energy. Aria herself did not understand what was happening. But she felt it. The power was not borrowed, not given. It was earned. The smoke parted as the enemy drew near. Aria stepped forward. Her voice did not shake this time. You laughed at me, she said, her eyes burning. But watch now. The hall was filled with smoke and fear. The crystal walls of the academy groaned under the weight of the attack. The students pressed against each other, whispering, trembling. But all eyes were on Aria. Her hand glowed brighter now. The mark stretched across her skin, lines of light that pulsed like living fire. No one had ever seen such a symbol before. It did not match any of the galactic archives. It belonged to no known species. It was human. The scaled Drakkar youth who had mocked her earlier stumbled back. That is impossible, he whispered. Aria herself could hardly believe it. The light surged from her palm, filling the air with a low hum. Her fear had not left her, but it had changed shape. It was no longer chains holding her down. It was fuel. The enemy crashed through the broken doors of the hall. Dark figures in armor stormed inside. Their weapons glowed with cruel energy, their movements sharp and merciless. The alien students cried out. Some tried to summon their own powers. A storm crackled above one student's head. Another tried to bend gravity to throw the invaders back. But panic broke their focus. Their marks flickered weakly, not strong enough to stop the soldiers. The instructor fought with everything he had. His horns blazed, sending waves of force that threw the first attackers aside. But more kept coming. Too many. And then without thinking Aria stepped forward. The glow on her hand flared like a star. Energy exploded outward in a shockwave that slammed into the invaders. They staggered back, their weapons shattering in their hands. The room went silent. Aria gasped. She had not meant to do it. The power had answered her anger, her desperation, her will to survive. Her chest rose and fell as the glow faded, then returned, pulsing steady and strong. The other students stared at her. The Drakkar's jaw hung open. Even the instructor turned, stunned. What are you? He breathed. Aria's voice shook, but her words were clear. I am human. The enemy roared in fury. More soldiers stormed in, their armor clashing, their eyes glowing red. Aria raised her hand again. She did not know how to control the mark. She did not even know what it was. But she felt it guide her, like an old memory awakening inside her blood. The light formed into a shield, wide and strong. The next volley of fire struck it and dissolved into sparks. The alien students gasped as they watched the human girl, small, fragile, mocked for weeks, stand between them and death. For the first time, they felt safe behind her. The instructor shouted, "Hold the line with her. Do not waste this chance." Strength returned to the alien students. The storm above one's head grew violent, lightning flashing down on the invaders. The Drakkar youth, ashamed of his earlier words, spread his claws and roared, throwing enemies aside with brute force. Together, they fought. But it was Aria who held the center, her glowing hand pushing back wave after wave. Minutes stretched like hours. The academy shook as battles raged in every wing. From the windows, Aria saw smoke rising from the city. Warships circled above, still firing. She wondered if this was the end of Zyril Prime. If so, she could not let it fall while she still breathed. The mark burned hotter. Every time fear tried to choke her, it turned into fire in her veins. She realized something then: this was what made humans different. The other species inherited power. Marks were given to them at birth. But humans earned power. They grew stronger because the world forced them to. Pain, loss, struggle, these were the forge of humanity. And now, the galaxy would see it. The last soldier in the hall fell, blasted back by Aria's light. Smoke cleared, revealing the broken floor and shattered walls. The students stood in silence. Some were bleeding, others shaking, but all still alive. The instructor lowered his head slowly. "You saved them," he said. His voice carried both awe and disbelief. Aria's hand still glowed, though weaker now. The power had drained her, but she stood tall. Her classmates, who once sneered, now looked at her with new eyes. Not all were ready to accept it, but none could deny it. The Drakkar youth stepped forward. His scales were cracked, his voice rough. "Human. I was wrong." Aria nodded once. She did not need his apology. The truth was already written in the mark on her hand. But the battle was not over. Alarms still rang through the academy. Outside, the enemy fleet darkened the sky. This fight had only begun. Aria turned to the window, her eyes hard. For the first time since she arrived, she felt she belonged, not because they allowed her, but because she had taken her place. Her words were quiet, but strong. "Let them come. Humanity does not run." The glow on her hand flared once more, lighting the darkened hall. And every student who saw it felt the same thought echo in their hearts. The galaxy would never laugh at humans again. The academy's crystal towers still burned. Outside the window, enemy ships hovered like predators circling prey. Their weapons glowed, ready to strike again. The students huddled together, shaken but alive. Aria stood at the front, her glowing hand raised, her chest rising and falling with each heavy breath. The mark pulsed weaker now, but it was still there, etched into her skin like fire that refused to die. The instructor's voice was firm, but his eyes carried doubt. "We cannot hold against the fleet. The defenses are broken. If they attack again, this academy will fall." The students murmured in fear. Some argued to escape, others to surrender. No one believed they could win. No one except Aria. She stepped forward. Her voice was steady, stronger than she felt inside. "If we run, we die. If we hide, we die. But if we fight together, we have a chance." The students stared at her. This was the same human girl they had mocked, the one they thought weak. Yet now, her words carried more weight than the instructor's orders. The Drakkar youth who once sneered at her now stood at her side. "She is right," he growled. "I will fight with her." One by one, others followed. The storm-bearer lifted his hands, sparks dancing at his fingertips. A healer with silver skin touched the wounded, closing their injuries. Even the smallest, most timid alien straightened their back. The instructor studied Aria for a long moment. Finally, he nodded. "Then the human will lead." The plan was desperate. They could not defeat the fleet head-on. But if they struck the flagship, the enemy command would falter. Aria knew the risks. She also knew there was no other choice. The group moved through the broken halls of the academy, slipping past fires and fallen crystal walls. The sky outside was red with flame, the city screaming in chaos. Drones patrolled the skies, but Aria's mark glowed whenever danger was near, guiding them through shadows. They reached the docking bay. Sleek ships waited, though many were damaged. Aria climbed into one, her classmates following. She had never flown alien craft before, but as her hand touched the controls, the mark flared. The systems lit up as if welcoming her. The ship lifted into the burning sky. Enemy drones swarmed as soon as they broke free. Energy blasts rained down. The ship shook violently. Aria gritted her teeth and raised her glowing hand. A barrier shimmered in front of them, deflecting the fire. Her classmates fired back, their marks adding power to the weapons. Lightning streaked, claws tore, gravity bent, different species fighting side by side for the first time, united under a human girl. The flagship loomed ahead, massive and black, like a fortress among the stars. Its cannons turned toward them. "Brace!" Aria shouted. The cannons fired. The blast was enough to tear them apart. But Aria's mark erupted, brighter than ever. A dome of light swallowed the ship, absorbing the impact. The shock rattled her bones. Pain seared through her arm. She almost collapsed, but she forced herself to stand. Not yet. Not now. They dove straight into the flagship's hangar before the cannons could fire again. The ship landed hard, skidding across the metal floor. The students jumped out, weapons glowing, marks blazing. The enemy soldiers rushed in to meet them. The battle was chaos. Blades clashed, lightning flashed, walls shook under the violence. The instructor tore through soldiers with sheer force. The Drakkar fought like a beast unleashed. Every student gave everything they had. But it was Aria who drew the enemy's focus. The commander stepped forward, towering in black armor. His voice was cold and sharp. "You are the human," he said. "The one with the forbidden mark." Aria tightened her grip on her power. "I don't know what it is. But I know this: you will not take this world." The commander laughed. "You cannot even control it." He lunged, his blade glowing with dark fire. Aria raised her hand, the mark blazing. Their clash sent shockwaves through the hangar. Sparks rained down. The commander was strong, far stronger than any she had faced. Each strike shook her bones. Each block sent pain racing through her arm. She wanted to collapse, to let go. But then she saw her classmates behind her. The same students who had once laughed at her now fought at her side, trusting her to lead. She could not fail them. Her father's words echoed in her mind: "Be patient. Learn. Prove yourself when the time comes." The time was now. The mark flared, brighter than ever before. Not just light memory. She saw Earth. She saw her people's long struggle, their pain, their wars, their survival against every storm. She felt the strength of a million voices, all saying the same thing: "We do not yield." Aria roared and unleashed the full power of the mark. The commander's blade shattered. His armor cracked. The shock wave hurled him across the hangar, slamming him into the wall. He fell and did not rise. Silence filled the air. The remaining enemy soldiers froze. Their commander defeated, they dropped their weapons and fled. The flagship shook as systems failed. Aria's classmates rushed to the controls, setting the ship's engines to overload. Together, they escaped back to their own craft. Behind them, the flagship exploded in fire, lighting the sky above Ziral Prime. When they landed, the city cheered. The Academy survivors looked at Aria not with mockery, but with awe. The instructor placed a hand on her shoulder. "Today, you showed the galaxy what it means to be human." Aria's mark still glowed faintly, but she lowered her hand, exhausted. She did not feel like a hero. She felt like someone who had done what had to be done. The other students gathered around her. The Drakkar bowed his head deeply. The Stormbearer smiled with respect. Even the smallest, timid alien whispered, "Thank you." Aria looked at them all. Once, she had been the outcast. Now, she was something more. Not just a human in a galactic class. A human the galaxy would never forget. The fires of Ziral Prime burned through the night. Smoke drifted over the crystal towers, now cracked and scarred from the battle. The Academy still stood, though much of it was broken. In the central courtyard, survivors gathered. Students sat on the steps, some wrapped in bandages, others silent in shock. The instructors spoke quietly with city leaders, trying to count the dead and the living. And in the middle of it all stood Aria. Her hand still carried the mark, faint but steady. It no longer blazed with wildfire. Instead, it pulsed like a heartbeat, calm yet powerful. Everywhere she walked, eyes followed her. The same eyes that once mocked her now watched with awe, respect, and even fear. The Drakkar youth approached her first. His scales were chipped, his pride broken. He bowed his head low. I insulted you. I called you weak. I was wrong. Aria shook her head. You fought beside me. That is what matters. He lifted his gaze, and for the first time, his eyes held no mockery. Only loyalty. The Stormbearer came next, his silver hair streaked with ash. I thought humans had no mark. Yet yours saved us all. How is this possible? Aria looked down at her glowing hand. She did not know the answer. I don't understand it either, she admitted. The instructor stepped forward then. His tall form cast a shadow over her, his silver horns gleaming even in the dim light. The galactic archives hold no record of such a symbol, he said. This mark is older than our history, perhaps older than the stars themselves. Murmurs spread through the crowd. Students whispered to each other, staring at Aria as if she were no longer just a classmate, but something far greater. Later, in the quiet of the ruined lecture hall, Aria sat alone. The weight of the day pressed down on her. She had fought, she had led, she had won. Yet her body ached, her spirit heavy with questions. She thought of Earth, her small, fragile home. A world dismissed by the galaxy as weak. And yet, the mark had chosen her. Why? Her father's words returned, prove yourself when the time comes. Had he known? The door opened. The instructor entered, his steps slow, deliberate. He carried a data crystal in his hand. I searched the oldest records, he said. There are myths, almost forgotten, of a force bound not to bloodlines, but to will. A power that awakens only in those who endure the impossible. The ancients called it, the human flame. Aria's breath caught. Human. Yes, the instructor said. Long ago, before the council erased the tales, there were whispers of your kind. A species with no mark at birth, but with the potential to awaken one stronger than any. A mark that is not inherited, but earned. Aria stared at her hand, the faint glow reflecting in her eyes. So this is not an accident. The instructor shook his head. No. It is destiny. The next morning, the Council of Zyril arrived. Leaders from across the galaxy gathered in the shattered academy, their robes flowing, their faces stern. They looked upon Aria with unreadable eyes. One counselor, with skin like polished stone, spoke first. The human has shown power beyond measure. Power that could unite, or destroy. Another counselor hissed. If humans can awaken such marks, they may threaten the balance of every world. The students bristled at those words. The Drakkar stepped forward, his voice fierce. She saved us. Without her, we would be dead. The Stormbearer added, you call her dangerous? She is the reason this academy still stands. Even the instructor bowed his head. If humanity is dangerous, it is only because they are strong enough to survive what others cannot. The council whispered among themselves, torn between fear and respect. Finally, the stone-skinned leader spoke again. His tone was heavy, reluctant. The girl may stay. But watch her well. If the human flame spreads, the galaxy must be ready. That night, Aria stood on the balcony of the academy, staring at the stars. Her hand glowed softly, the mark alive beneath her skin. She wondered how many humans across the galaxy might carry the same spark, waiting to awaken. She wondered if Earth knew of this secret, or if she was the first. She felt fear, yes. But more than that, she felt pride. Once, she had been the outcast. Now, she carried a fire the galaxy had forgotten. Her voice was quiet, but the words carried strength. They mocked the human girl. But they will never mock humanity again. The mark pulsed, brighter for a moment, as if answering her vow. And far above, in the endless dark, the stars seemed to burn just a little brighter. The academy slowly rebuilt itself. Broken towers were repaired, scorched halls cleaned, shields restored. Yet even as stone and crystal healed, whispers spread faster than any fire. Every world had heard the same story. The human girl. The hidden mark. The human flame. Some told it as a tale of hope, of courage, of unity. Others told it as a warning that a forgotten species now carried a power older than the stars. Aria could not walk through the academy without hearing her name. Students who once ignored her now asked questions, some with respect, others with fear. Is it true you destroyed the flagship alone? Can all humans awaken the mark? Will the council ban your people? Aria had no answers. One evening, the instructor called her to his chamber. The tall alien stood by the window, his horns glowing faintly in the starlight. His face was grave. Aria, he said, the council has summoned you. Her stomach tightened. Why? They fear you, the instructor admitted. They fear what you represent. But there are others who see you as a weapon against their enemies. You are no longer only a student. You are a symbol. And symbols draw both allies and hunters. Aria stared at her glowing hand. I didn't ask for this. No one asks for destiny, the instructor said softly. But it comes anyway. The council chamber was vast, its ceiling carved with constellations. Leaders from across the galaxy sat in a circle, their robes heavy with rank. Aria walked to the center, her steps echoing. The stone-skinned counselor spoke first. Human. You carry a mark that should not exist. The galaxy deserves to know, are there more like you? I don't know, Aria answered honestly. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. A counselor with wings leaned forward. Then we must assume there could be a race that can earn power instead of inheriting it. Such beings could upset every balance we have built. Another counselor shook his head. Or perhaps they could renew what we have lost. Our powers are tied to birth. They do not grow. But hers burns brighter with every struggle. That is strength the galaxy has forgotten. The council argued. Voices rose. Some called for humans to be watched, others for humans to be invited into the council itself. Aria listened, her heart heavy. They were not speaking to her, they were speaking about her. About her people. As if humanity were a resource, not a people with hearts and lives. Finally, she raised her hand. The glow silenced the chamber. I am not a weapon, she said. Her voice was steady, her eyes fierce. I am not your fear or your tool. I am human. And my people have survived every hardship because we do not give up. If that frightens you, then so be it. But do not mistake survival for conquest. We only fight when we must. For a long moment, silence filled the chamber. Then, slowly, the counselors bowed their heads. Not in agreement, but in respect. That night, Aria returned to her dormitory. She should have felt relief, but instead she felt a shadow pressing on her heart. She dreamed of Earth. She saw her father standing in the fields, looking at the stars. She heard his voice, be patient. Learn. Prove yourself when the time comes. But another voice followed, deep and cold. The human flame will spread. And when it does, the galaxy will burn. Aria woke with a start, sweat on her skin, her mark glowing brighter than before. Days later, a message arrived at the academy. Not from the council. Not from the leaders of Ziral Prime. It was from deep space. The signal was old, broken, distorted. But the words were clear. To the human who carries the flame, you are not the first. We wait for you. The room fell silent as the message ended. Aria's heart raced. Not the first? Others like her, somewhere in the stars? Her classmates looked at her with wide eyes. Some with hope, others with fear. The instructor's face was unreadable. At last, Aria whispered the truth she felt in her bones. This is only the beginning. Her hand glowed brighter, casting light across the darkened hall. And though no one said it aloud, every soul in that room knew one thing. The galaxy had changed forever.